The new sports car gleamed like fresh blood in my parents' driveway. I gripped my steering wheel, knuckles white, as Sydney twirled in circles around it, squealing like she'd just won the lottery. Maybe she had, with my money. My name is Sophie, and I just watched my sister steal my future. "Isn't she gorgeous?" Sydney ran her manicured fingers along the hood. "I got such a good deal. The salesman practically gave it away." I stepped out of my sensible Honda, still in my work clothes, from a 12-hour day at the financial firm. My phone buzzed again. Probably another overdraft alert from my savings account. I'd been ignoring them for the past hour, praying it was all a mistake. "Sydney." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Where did you get the money for this?" She tossed her perfectly styled hair, identical to our mother's. "Oh, don't start with the lecture. Mum and Dad helped me figure it out. Right, guys?" Our parents stood in the background, champagne glasses in hand. Mum gave me that familiar pleading look, the one that always meant, "Don't rock the boat." "Your sister needed reliable transportation, honey," Mum said, stepping forward. "We just accessed that emergency account you set up for the family." The world tilted sideways. "That wasn't an emergency account. That was my house down payment. $50,000. My entire savings." "Don't be dramatic." Sydney rolled her eyes. "You can save it up again. You're good with money. It's like your whole thing. Besides, you're always saying family comes first." "Family comes first?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the balance. "You drained my account down to $127,943, without asking me, without even telling me." Dad cleared his throat. "Now, Sophie, your sister has interviews coming up. She needs to make the right impression." "Interviews?" I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. "For what? The 3 jobs she's quit this year? Or the degree she never finished?" "That's not fair." Sydney's face crumpled into tears, right on cue. "Mum, she's being mean." "Sophie, please." Mum rushed to comfort Sydney. "You know your sister's been struggling. We need to support her right now. You've always been the strong one." The strong one. The responsible one. The one they could count on to clean up their messes, cover their bills, keep their secrets. I'd been doing it since I was 12, watching Mum sleep off her headaches while I got Sydney ready for school. "You're right," I said quietly, pulling out my phone. "I am the strong one. See?" Mum brightened. "I knew you'd understand. I'm also the one whose name is on all the family financial accounts." I dialed the bank's number, the one who's been covering Dad's credit card payments since his early retirement, the one whose savings account was collateral for your emergency line of credit. Dad's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. "What are you doing?" "Yes, hello." I spoke clearly into the phone. "This is Sophie Price. I need to close account number 847392, effective immediately." "Yes, I understand this will affect linked accounts. That's exactly what I want." "Sophie, stop." Mum lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "You can't do this." "Actually, I can. It's my money." I met Sydney's wide eyes. "Enjoy the car, sis. Hope it was worth it." "You're just jealous," Sydney shouted after me as I walked to my car. "Jealous that Mum and Dad love me more, that I'm living my life while you're just boring." I paused, hand on my car door. "You know what's interesting about karma, Sydney? It's not always patient. Sometimes it shows up the second you deserve it." "What's that supposed to mean?" she demanded. I smiled, sliding into my driver's seat. "You'll find out in about, 72 hours when those credit cards stop working, give or take." The last thing I saw in my rearview mirror was Dad frantically dialing his phone while Mum hugged a sobbing Sydney. They looked exactly like the family portrait on their wall. Perfect composition, Mum and Dad flanking their favourite daughter. The portrait I'd paid for last Christmas, like I'd paid for everything else. But not anymore. I pulled over 2 blocks away, hands shaking as I dialed another number. Bryce? It's me. Remember when you said I should stop enabling them? Well, I just did something extreme. Finally, he answered. Want to grab a drink and tell me all about it? I glanced back toward my parents' house, where Sydney's new car still gleamed in the fading sunlight. Yes, and Bryce. Bring your laptop. We're going to need it. The sun set behind me as I drove away, leaving the golden child and her kingdom of cards behind. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I was just getting warmed up. 3 days, Bryce said, sliding his laptop across the bar. That's how long it'll take for the bank's system to fully process the account closure and trigger the domino effect. I stared into my gin and tonic, ice cubes clinking as I swirled the glass. They've called 17 times since yesterday. I stopped counting the texts. Let me see. Bryce scrolled through my phone. Sophie, please call us immediately. This is an emergency. Your sister is crying herself sick. Oh, this is rich. We raised you better than this. Did they, though? I took another sip. You know what I remember from growing up? Making Sydney's lunch while Mom was resting. Helping Dad balance checkbooks at 13 because he couldn't figure out why they were always overdrawn. Being told I couldn't go to my first choice college because Sydney needed braces. And now they took your house down payment. Bryce's fingers flew across the keyboard. Look at this. They've been siphoning money from your linked accounts for years. Small amounts, but it adds up. 20 here, 50 there. The bar's dim lighting couldn't hide the growing list of transactions. They thought I wouldn't notice, because I never did before. My phone buzzed again. Mom's face filled the screen. You should answer it, Bryce said. They need to understand this isn't a game anymore. I took a deep breath and picked up. Hello? Sophie! Mum's voice cracked with panic. The bank called. They're saying something about defaulted credit lines and frozen accounts. What did you do? Exactly what I said I would. I closed my accounts. But your father's cards aren't working. We have bills due. Sydney needs, I cut her off. What about what I need, Mom? Like the house I've been saving for since I was 23. That's different. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. We didn't steal. Mum's voice rose. We borrowed. You know we're good for it. I laughed. Are you? Really? Because according to Dad's credit report, yes, I can see it. I'm still listed as an authorized user. You're maxed out on 6 cards. Cards I've been making minimum payments on for 2 years. Silence crackled over the line. Sophie! Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. Please, just come over. We can talk about this. Sure. I finished my drink. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Bryce raised an eyebrow as I hung up. You're really going? They need to see my face when their world crashes down. I grabbed my purse. Want to drive? 20 minutes later, I walked into my parents' living room. Sydney's mascara-streaked face glared at me from the couch. Dad paced by the window, phone pressed to his ear. The bank won't budge, he announced, hanging up. They're calling in all the credit lines by Friday. Something about... what was it? Unlinked collateral. That would be my savings account. I sat in the armchair, crossing my legs. The one Sydney emptied for her midlife crisis car. This isn't funny, Sydney shrieked. They're saying I might lose the car. Do you know how embarrassing that would be? Almost as embarrassing as having to tell my realtor I lost my down payment. I kept my voice level. Or maybe as embarrassing as finding out my family's been treating me like their personal ATM for years. We never meant to hurt you, Mum started crying. Things have been tight since your father retired. At 55, with no savings, after I told him it was a terrible idea. Dad's face reddened. Now listen here, young lady. No, you listen. I stood up. For years, I've covered your mistakes, paid your bills, kept your secrets. And how do you repay me? by helping Sydney steal the one thing I was saving for myself. But you're so good with money, Sydney wailed. You can just save it up again. You're right, I am good with money. I walked to the door, which is why I'm cutting you all off. For good. You can't do this to us! Mom grabbed my arm. We're your parents! I gently removed her hand. Parents protect their children. They don't use them as financial cushions. They don't steal their dreams to fund another child's impulse purchases. Sophie, please! Dad's voice cracked. Check your mail tomorrow, I said, opening the door. The bank's sending formal notices about the default. Oh, and Sydney? Better park that car in the garage. Repo men work at night. The door closed behind me with a soft click. In the driveway, Bryce waited in his car, engine running. You okay? He asked as I buckled in. I watched my mother's silhouette appear in the window, phone already pressed to her ear, probably calling her sister to borrow money. No, I answered honestly. But I will be. For the first time in my life, I will be. They're outside again, Bryce said, peering through my apartment blinds. Your mum's crying in the car while Sydney's buzzing every unit in the building. I didn't look up from my laptop. They've been doing this for 3 days. The neighbours are starting to complain. My phone lit up with another text from Sydney. You're destroying this family. Actually, a new voice called from my kitchen. They're destroying themselves quite nicely without your help. Eliza, my best friend and realtor, emerged with 3 cups of coffee. The repo men picked up Sydney's car this morning. I may have recorded it for posterity. Show me, I said, reaching for her phone. The video showed Sydney screaming at 2 impassive men as they hooked up her red sports car to a tow truck. Mum tried to block them with her body, while Dad waved papers in their faces. Those papers, I pointed, are probably the loan documents they forged my signature on. Found that out yesterday. Identity theft? Eliza whistled. That's not just karma anymore, that's criminal. The buzzer rang again. Sydney's voice crackled through the intercom. I know you're in there. You can't ignore us forever. Watch me, I muttered, but Eliza was already striding to the intercom. Listen up, you entitled little brat, she snapped into the speaker. Your sister's not available to bail you out anymore. Try getting a job instead of a lawyer. You'll need both. Bryce choked on his coffee. Damn, Eliza. Someone had to say it. She turned to me. Speaking of lawyers, did you file those identity theft charges? Tomorrow morning. I pulled up the documents on my screen, along with proof they used my information to secure loans I never approved. The buzzer started again, this time continuously. Mum's voice joined Sydney's, both talking over each other in desperate pleas. That's it. Eliza grabbed her purse. I'm calling the police. This is harassment. Wait, I said, standing up. I'll handle it. I took the elevator down, my heart pounding but my steps steady. The lobby doors opened to reveal Sydney's mascara-streaked face pressed against the glass, Mum hovering behind her. Finally! Sydney shoved through the door as I opened it. Do you know what you've done? The bank froze everything. They're saying Dad might face fraud charges. That's what happens when you forge loan documents, I replied calmly. We didn't forge anything, Mum protested. We just used your information as a guarantor. You've always helped before. Always helped? Something snapped inside me. You mean like when I was 14? Getting up at 5 a.m. to tutor Sydney before school because you couldn't be bothered? Or when I worked 2 jobs in college while Sydney dropped out of 3 universities on my dime? That's not fair. Sydney stepped closer. You're just jealous because what? I cut her off. Because Mum and Dad love you more? They can keep their love. I'm done paying for it. Please, Mom grabbed my hand. We can fix this. Just talk to the bank. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. I pulled my hand away. Like when I was 10 and you borrowed my birthday money from Grandma for Sydney's dance lessons? Or last Christmas when Dad borrowed my credit card for her spring break trip? Those were different times. No. My voice was ice. Those were practice runs. You've been testing my boundaries my whole life, seeing how much you could take before I broke. Guess what? You finally did it. Sydney's face crumpled. But you're my sister. You're supposed to protect me. I did protect you. For 29 years, I protected you from consequences. Not anymore. A police car pulled up to the curb. Eliza stepping out of her car behind it. Miss? The officer approached. We received a complaint about harassment. That's them, Eliza pointed. They've been harassing my friend for days. Mom's face went pale. Sophie, you wouldn't. I would. I stepped back into my building. And if you come here again, I'll add it to the identity theft charges I'm filing tomorrow. Identity theft? The officer's expression hardened. Ma'am, I'm going to need you both to step away from the building. I watched through the lobby windows as the officer escorted them to their car. Sydney looked back once, her expression a mix of fury and fear. Mum didn't look back at all. Upstairs, Bryce and Eliza waited with fresh coffee and concerned faces. They're gone, I said, dropping onto my couch. Probably not for good, but long enough. Eliza sat beside me. You know what the best revenge is? Living well? No, she grinned. Getting that dream house you've been saving for, only bigger and better. And guess what? I just found one in your price range, now that you're not supporting 4 people. For the first time in days, I smiled. Show me. You're not going to believe this, Bryce said, his laptop casting a blue glow across my kitchen table. I found something while tracking those old joint accounts. It was midnight, and we'd been digging through financial records for hours. Empty takeout containers littered the table, evidence of our impromptu investigation session. Show me. I leaned over his shoulder. See these transfers? He pointed to a series of transactions. Every month for the past 3 years, money's been moving from your savings to an account I don't recognize. Small amounts, but consistent. I squinted at the screen. That's not possible. I monitor everything. They did it through that old joint account you opened with your mom in college, the one you forgot about. His fingers flew across the keyboard. They've been using it as a pipeline. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sydney. Dad's having chest pains because of you. Hope you're happy. Ignore her, Bryce said, not looking up. Wait. Holy shit. Sophie, look at this. The screen showed a web of transactions, spreading like a corrupt family tree. Money flowing from my accounts through various channels, always ending up in Sydney's pocket or my parents' credit card payments. $300,000, Bryce whispered. That's how much they've siphoned over the years. The room spun. I grabbed the counter for support. That's impossible. The numbers don't lie. He pulled up more documents. And there's something else. Your name's on Sydney's car loan as a co-signer. Did you sign anything? Never. Then we've got them. He reached for his phone. This is straight up fraud. A knock at my door made us both jump. I checked the peephole. It was Eliza, holding a manila envelope. You need to see this, she said, bursting in. I was checking property records for that house we looked at, and guess what popped up? Your parents listed you as a guarantor on their condo refinance. Last week. What? I snatched the papers. There was my signature, forged again. They're desperate, Bryce said. The banks are closing in, and they're using your name to try to stay afloat. My phone rang. My boss, Garrett. At midnight. Sophie. His voice was grave when I answered. I'm sorry to call so late, but there's something you should know. Your sister just applied for a job here. She listed you as a reference and there are some discrepancies in her application. What kind of discrepancies? She claims she has a finance degree and 3 years of experience, says you can verify it. I laughed, the sound hollow. She dropped out after 1 semester. I thought so. Papers rustled on his end. Sophie, given your position at the firm, if she's attempting fraud, I understand. I straightened my spine. Garrett, I need to tell you something about my family. 20 minutes later, I hung up. Bryce and Eliza watched me expectantly. Well, Eliza prompted. Garrett's reporting the fraudulent application. I sank into a chair. And he's giving me tomorrow off to file police reports. Good. Bryce turned his laptop around. Because there's more. Remember that private school Sydney went to senior year? The one that mysteriously waived her tuition? I nodded. They didn't waive it. Your parents used your information as a guarantor. You've been paying it off through automatic withdrawals for 6 years. Fresh rage coursed through me. That's why they insisted I keep that joint account open. They said it was for emergencies. The emergency was their lifestyle, Eliza snorted, and Sydney's inability to function as an adult. My phone buzzed again. A family group text from Mum. Your father's in the ER. His blood pressure's through the roof. Please, Sophie, if you ever loved us. Don't answer. Eliza grabbed my phone. They're trying to manipulate you. Again. I know. I stood up, pacing. But what if he's really sick? Then that's on them, Bryce said firmly. They made their choices, for years. Another text popped up, this time from Sydney. If anything happens to Dad, it's your fault. I'll never forgive you. I took my phone back from Eliza, typing quickly. If anything happens to Dad, it's because of choices you all made. Choices that are about to have very real consequences. What are you going to do? Eliza asked softly. I looked at the stack of evidence on my table. Forged signatures, fraudulent loans, years of financial abuse documented in black and white. I'm going to do what I should have done years ago. I picked up my phone again. I'm calling the police, and then I'm calling every bank they've defrauded using my name. They're your family, Bryce said quietly. No, I replied, dialing the number. They're criminals who happen to share my DNA, and it's time they learned that karma has a badge. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look harsh and washed out. Detective Rivera spread the documents across her desk, eyebrows rising as she flipped through each page. This is extensive, she said, looking up at me. And you're saying this has been going on for years? I didn't realize how long until yesterday. I handed her another folder. These are the forged loan documents, my signature's on all of them, but I never signed anything. And your parents and sister did this? Yes. My voice didn't shake anymore when I said it. They used my information to secure loans, open credit lines, even co-sign a car. The detective made notes, her face grim. This is serious fraud, miss. Once we file these charges, there's no going back. Are you sure you want to proceed? My phone buzzed. Another text from Sydney. Dad's being released from the hospital. No thanks to you. Mum's crying herself sick. How can you be so heartless? I turned my phone around to show the detective. This is why I'm sure. They're still trying to manipulate me, even now. I see this more often than you'd think, she said kindly. Family financial abuse is... The door burst open. Garrett, my boss, strode in with a thick manila envelope. Sorry I'm late, he said, taking a seat. But I brought something you need to see. Sydney's fraudulent job application was just the tip of the iceberg. He spread more documents across the detective's desk. Employment verifications, academic records, loan applications, all with my forged signature as a reference or guarantor. She's been using your name to apply for jobs across the city, Garrett explained. claiming you'd verify her fake credentials. Some companies have already started investigating. Detective Rivera's pen moved faster. This changes things. We're looking at multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and financial abuse. My phone rang. Mom again. The detective nodded for me to answer and put it on speaker. Sophie, please. Mom's voice crackled through. The bank is threatening to press charges against your father. They're saying something about loan fraud. You have to help us. I can't, Mom. Not anymore. But we're family, after everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me? I laughed. You mean stealing my identity? Forging my signature? Draining my accounts? We never meant to hurt you. We just needed help. And you're so good with money. Mrs. Price, Detective Rivera cut in. This is Detective Rivera with the Financial Crimes Unit. I advise you to stop talking and contact a lawyer immediately. The line went dead. That should give them something to think about, the detective said, gathering the documents. We'll start processing these right away. Given the evidence, we should have arrest warrants by morning. Arrest warrants? My stomach lurched. They'll actually be arrested. This is felony fraud, Garrett said gently. What did you think would happen? Before I could answer, my phone exploded with texts from Sydney. What did you do? The police are calling Mom and Dad. I can't believe you'd betray us like this. You're dead to me. The last message was a photo of us as kids, me helping Sydney with her homework, both of us smiling. The caption read, "Remember when you were actually a good sister?" That's their specialty, I told Detective Rivera, showing her the messages. Emotional manipulation. They take and take, then make you feel guilty for noticing. Classic abuse pattern, she nodded. Would you like to press charges for the harassment as well? Yes, I said, surprising myself with my firmness. Yes, I would. Garrett squeezed my shoulder. You're doing the right thing. They need to face consequences. I know. I stood up, gathering my things. I just wish it didn't hurt so much. One more thing, Detective Rivera called as I reached the door. We'll need you to document any further contact from them. Texts, calls, emails, everything. They won't stop trying to contact me, will they? Not until they're forced to. She handed me her card. But that's what restraining orders are for. Outside the police station, the morning sun was rising. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Dad. The police are here. How could you do this to your own parents? I typed back. The same way you did it to your own daughter. One signature at a time. Then I blocked their numbers. All of them. Garrett waited by his car to drive me to work. Ready? He asked. I looked back at the police station, where Detective Rivera was probably already processing the arrest warrants. Soon, my family would learn that karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes it comes with a badge and handcuffs. Yeah, I said, getting into the car. I'm ready. They were arrested this morning, Eliza announced, dropping a local newspaper on my desk. The headline read, Local family charged in identity theft scheme. I pushed the paper away. I don't want to see it. You need to see it. She flipped to the article. They're trying to spin it to the media. Your mom gave an interview claiming you're mentally unstable and misunderstanding family obligations. Classic narcissist move, Bryce said from my office doorway. When caught, discredit the victim. My office phone lit up. Another call from an unknown number. They'd been finding ways around my blocks all week. Watch this, I said, putting it on speaker. Hello, Sophie? It was my Aunt Linda. How could you do this to your own parents? They're devastated. Sydney's reputation is ruined. Their reputation? I kept my voice steady. You mean their reputation for stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from me? For forging my signature? For committing felony fraud? They're family. Family helps each other. Really? I shuffled through papers on my desk. Because I have proof here that they used your identity too. Want me to tell you how much debt they put in your name? The line went dead. Boom. Eliza grinned. That shut her up. My email pinged. A message from Detective Rivera. Thought you should see this. They're trying to negotiate a plea deal. Attached was a screenshot of Sydney's latest social media post. My sister destroyed our family because she's jealous of my success. Now she's trying to send our parents to jail. Please share our GoFundMe for legal expenses. Oh, hell no. Eliza grabbed her phone. I'm reporting that fundraiser for fraud. Don't bother, Bryce said, typing on his laptop. I already did, and I may have sent screenshots to the prosecutor showing them trying to raise money while claiming poverty to the court. My desk phone rang again. This time it was Garrett. Sophie, come to my office. There's something you need to see. In his office, Garrett had more papers spread across his desk. Your sister's been busy. She tried to open credit cards at 6 different banks using your work information as verification. When that failed, she tried using the firm's name. She what? It gets better. He handed me a letter. She applied for a job at our biggest competitor, claiming she was a junior analyst here. Used your name as a reference again. I'll add it to the fraud charges, I said, reaching for my phone. Already did. He leaned back. But that's not why I called you in. The board was impressed with how you handled this situation. They're offering you a promotion, senior risk analyst. I blinked. What? You spotted financial fraud in your own family and had the courage to report it. That's exactly the kind of integrity we need in risk management. Back in my office, Eliza and Bryce waited expectantly. Well? Eliza demanded. I got promoted. Yes, she hugged me. See? Karma works both ways. My phone buzzed, an email from my parents' lawyer. Your parents are willing to take a plea deal, but they want you to write a letter to the judge asking for leniency. Delete it, Bryce advised. No, I started typing. I'm writing back. Dear Mr. Harrison, my parents and sister committed systematic financial fraud over several years, stealing my identity and hundreds of thousands of dollars. They showed no remorse until court. They continue to harass me and attempt to manipulate public opinion. I will not be writing a letter of leniency. Instead, I will be submitting a victim impact statement detailing every forged signature, every stolen dollar, and every attempt to destroy my reputation when I finally stood up for myself. They wanted to play games with the legal system? Game on. Regards, Sophie. Savage, Eliza whispered, reading over my shoulder. No. I hit send. Just honest. Finally. My phone lit up with a text from Detective Rivera. Your parents' house just went into foreclosure. They're being evicted next week. I stared at the message, remembering Sunday dinners in that house, holidays, birthdays. All fake. All built on stolen money and lies. You okay? Bryce asked softly. I will be. I looked out my office window, where the city stretched out below. Somewhere out there, my family was facing real consequences for the first time in their lives. You know what's funny? They always said I was the responsible one, the boring one, the one who needed to help everyone else shine. And now? Now I'm the one with the promotion, the clean credit score, and the clear conscience. I turned back to my desk. They can keep their drama. I've got work to do. Speaking of work, Eliza pulled out her tablet. Ready to look at more houses? There's a beautiful one just listed. Perfect for a newly promoted senior risk analyst. I smiled. Show me. The courtroom felt smaller than I expected. My parents sat at the defendant's table, looking diminished in their court-appropriate clothing. Sydney slouched in the gallery behind them, shooting me venomous glares. "All rise," the bailiff called. Detective Rivera squeezed my hand as I stood. "You ready?" I nodded, gripping my victim impact statement. 3 pages that had taken weeks to write, each word weighted with years of suppressed truth. "The state versus April and Philip," the judge began, but was interrupted by commotion at the courtroom door. My parents' lawyer rushed in, whispering urgently to them. Mum's face crumpled. Dad's shoulders slumped. "Your Honor," their lawyer addressed the court. "My clients wish to change their plea to guilty on all counts." Sydney's gasp echoed through the courtroom. "Mum! Dad! No!" The judge peered over his glasses. "You understand this means no trial? No chance to present your defense?" "We understand," Dad said, his voice barely audible. "Very well." The judge shuffled papers. "Before sentencing, we'll hear the victim impact statement. Miss Price?" I walked to the podium, my heels clicking on the marble floor. The statement trembled in my hands. "Your Honor," I began, "I've spent weeks trying to calculate the exact financial damage my family caused. The stolen money, the forged loans, the fraudulent accounts. But the real cost? That's harder to quantify." Mom started crying. I kept going. "How do you measure the cost of betrayal? Of discovering that every time your parents said, 'I love you,' they were really saying, 'I love what I can take from you'?" "That's not true." Sydney stood up. "We're family." "Miss," the judge warned, "sit down or be removed." I turned to face my family directly. "You taught me that family means sacrificing everything for each other. But that was a lie. What you really taught me was that family means having convenient victims who won't press charges." "Sophie, please." Mom reached out. "We can still fix this." "No, Mom, we can't. Because you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught." The judge cleared his throat. "Given the defendant's guilty plea and the extent of their crimes, I'm prepared to deliver sentencing." "Wait!" Dad stood up. "Your Honor, please. We did it for our daughter." "Which one?" I asked quietly. "The one you stole from, or the one you stole for?" The judge's gavel cracked like thunder. "Mr. Price, sit down. Based on the severity and duration of these crimes, I sentence you both to 5 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 3 years. Additionally, you'll pay full restitution to the victim." Sydney burst into tears. "This is all your fault!" she screamed at me. "I hate you!" "Miss Price," the judge addressed Sydney, "your separate trial for fraud and identity theft begins next week. I suggest you save your outbursts for then." Outside the courtroom, reporters clustered with cameras and microphones. Eliza and Bryce flanked me like bodyguards. "Miss Price, how does it feel sending your parents to prison?" "I didn't send them anywhere," I said clearly. "Their choices did." "Sophie," Mom called, as officers led them past. "We did everything for you kids." "No, Mom. You did everything to us. There's a difference." Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Sydney tried to rush at me but was held back by their lawyer. "You're dead to me," she shrieked. "Dead!" "Funny," I replied. "I've never felt more alive." Detective Rivera appeared with a protective detail. "Let's get you out of here. Your sister's getting unstable." In the parking lot, Bryce opened his car door for me. "Want to get a drink?" "Actually," I pulled out my phone, showing him an email. "I have a house closing to get to." "Now?" Eliza perked up. "The one we looked at last week?" "That's the one." I smiled. "Turns out karma has good timing. My parents lose their house the same day I buy mine." "Sophie!" Sydney's voice rang across the parking lot. She'd broken away from the lawyer. "You can't do this! Where are Mom and Dad supposed to live when they get out?" "Not my problem," I called back. "Try getting a job instead of a handout. I heard Walmart's hiring. As we drove away, I watched in the rearview mirror as officers led my parents to the prison transport van. Sydney stood alone on the courthouse steps, mascara running, screaming into her phone. "You okay?" Bryce asked softly. I thought about the house waiting for me, about my promotion, about the weight lifting from my shoulders with each mile we drove. "You know what?" I said. "For the first time in my life, I actually am." "Good." He smiled. "Because we've got a closing to get to. Ready to start your new life?" I looked ahead at the road stretching before us, clear and bright. "More than ready. Let's go home." "Last box," Bryce announced, setting it down in my new kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the bay windows, catching the granite countertops I'd fallen in love with during the viewing. "I still can't believe this is mine." I ran my hand along the smooth surface. "All mine." "Better believe it." Eliza burst through the door with champagne. "Because this calls for a celebration. First night in your new house." My phone buzzed. A news alert. Sydney's sentencing had finished. I clicked the link. Local woman gets 3 years for identity theft. Sydney Price, 24, was sentenced today for multiple counts of fraud. "Don't." Eliza grabbed my phone. "This is your moment. No family drama allowed." The doorbell rang. Detective Rivera stood on my porch, holding a folder. "Sorry to interrupt your moving day," she said, stepping inside. "But I thought you'd want to see this. Your parents tried to file an appeal. It was denied." "Of course they did." I accepted the folder. "Let me guess. They claimed they were just trying to help their children? Actually, they tried to blame you. Said you gave them permission for everything." She smiled. The judge wasn't impressed. Speaking of not impressed, Bryce called from my laptop. "You might want to see this." He pulled up a social media post from one of my cousins. "Family isn't family anymore. Sophie put her parents in jail, and now she's buying a fancy house with blood money. Karma will get her." "Blood money?" I laughed. "You mean my own savings they didn't manage to steal? Want me to respond?" Eliza cracked her knuckles over the keyboard. "No need." I started unpacking a box. "They can keep their social media circus. I've got better things to do." "Like planning your housewarming party?" Eliza pulled out a design magazine. "Because this place has serious entertainment potential." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Garrett. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he said, holding up a bottle of wine. "But I brought a housewarming gift, and news. Good news or bad news?" "Depends." He grinned. "How do you feel about speaking at next month's Financial Security Conference? The board thinks your story could help others identify family fraud." I thought about all the people out there, trapped in webs of financial abuse, too scared or guilty to break free. "I'll do it," I said. "Someone needs to show them there's a way out." "Perfect." He handed me an envelope. "Here's your new contract, complete with that raise we discussed." My phone buzzed again. An unknown number, but I recognized the prison's area code. "Sophie?" Mum's voice was thin. "Please don't hang up. I need you to know I'm sorry." "Are you sorry for what you did, or sorry you got caught?" Silence. That's what I thought. I kept my voice steady. "Goodbye, Mum." "Wait, your father and we'll have nowhere to go when we get out. Sydney's obviously not in a position to help." "You're right. She's not. Because you taught her that taking is easier than earning." I looked around my new kitchen, at my friends unpacking boxes and opening wine. "But you taught me something too. You taught me exactly who not to be." I hung up before she could respond. "You okay?" Bryce asked softly. "Better than okay." I grabbed wine glasses from a box. "I'm free." "To freedom!" Eliza raised her glass. "And to karma finally doing its job." Detective Rivera checked her phone. "Speaking of karma, Sydney's being transferred to state prison tomorrow. Want me to keep you updated? No, I said firmly. I don't need to know what happens to them anymore. Their story isn't my story. Then what is your story? Bryce asked, helping me unpack dishes. I looked around my new kitchen, at the sunlight painting warm patterns on walls that were truly mine. At friends who supported me through everything. At a career that rewarded integrity instead of manipulation. My story? I smiled. My story is just beginning, and this time I'm writing it myself. Well then, Eliza raised her glass again, to new beginnings, and to Sophie, the woman who proved that sometimes the best revenge is living well, and paying attention to your bank statements, Detective Rivera added with a wink. We laughed, the sound echoing through my new home, my real home, built on truth instead of lies, strength instead of manipulation, independence instead of guilt. Outside, a moving truck drove past, carrying my parents' repossessed furniture to auction. But I didn't watch it go. I was too busy planning where to hang my art, choosing paint colors, making this space mine. They say home is where the heart is, but sometimes home is where you finally set your heart free. So, Eliza pulled out her tablet. About that housewarming party? I grinned. Show me what you're thinking. This time, every decision would be mine. Every choice would be clear, every dollar would be earned, and it felt absolutely perfect.